Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me for this session and for arranging this session, which I think is extremely important because you can get pretty frustrated if you look at the international climate negotiations, how slowly things are moving. We all know we still have a significant gap to fill out if we have to achieve the 2-degree target, and things are moving quite slowly. But then it is encouraging that from a bottom-up perspective, things are actually moving in the right direction to a certain degree, as we just heard. The investments in energy efficiency and renewables are growing significantly, and the prices of renewables are decreasing, which is probably even more important. Well, if you want to be a first mover on the green market, that also puts some demands on you, and Denmark definitely has the ambition to be such a first green mover. And that's why we in Denmark has decided that we will go for a 40% CO2 reduction in 2020 domestically, meaning we won't buy any credits, but we'll do it at home. Now, and we will plan to make a climate plan for that this year and to adopt a climate law like you have done in the UK next year. Now, the first major step to actually achieve that reduction was taken 5 weeks ago in Copenhagen, where we made a historic energy agreement. It was historic because we made, I think, but let's compete on that, gentlemen, the most ambitious green energy plan of the world. But it was also historic because it was adopted and agreed by 95% of the seats in Parliament. We never had such historic agreement, broad agreement behind an energy plan in Denmark ever. With that plan, we will take 34% of CO2 reductions out of the 40 we plan. 34% CO2 reduction in 2020. And we do that by making historic high investments in energy efficiency, both in our industries and in our buildings. 12% in absolute figures decrease in energy consumption in 2020. And we also plan a historic development of renewables. We go for 50% wind in our electricity consumed in 2020, and a total share of renewables, including transportation, of 35% of our energy production. So it's quite ambitious, and to make that a reality, you also need to roll out a smart grid to enforce our connection to the neighboring countries, to install smart meters in all homes, etc., etc. It's really an extreme green makeover in a very short period of time. And you may ask yourself, how is it possible to actually get such a vast majority of the Danish Parliament to support that, from the very left to the very right in Parliament? And I think there are 3 reasons. In a short perspective, in an economic crisis as we're facing in Europe right now, this is a plan that enables us to have stable economic framework and incentives, and that create jobs, a lot of jobs in Denmark in the next 2, 3, 4 years, and we need these jobs. Secondly, in a middle short perspective, we have, for the first time, I would say, the whole industry, the whole business community with us in this plan. And we have that because the increase in energy prices, and especially the increase of fossil fuels in the last 10 years, you know that the prices have increased more the last 10 years than they decreased the whole 20th century. That situation on the global commodity markets have made the business community in Denmark and industry much more interested in actively investing in energy efficiency and to get less vulnerable on very few energy sources. And that's why we have made a deal with the business community that we will help them to invest in energy efficiency and to become less dependent on fossil fuels, and they will support this development because they also need to put huge private investment in this if we have to succeed. We can't pay it by the public sector ourselves. So we actually expect to have a more competitive industry in 8 years than we have today due to this energy agreement. Thirdly, of course, we have a lot of concerns about the climate development in Denmark. We hope that this could be leading by example, that we not only will be able to export know-how, but also show how when it comes to the climate negotiations. I think I will leave it by that. Just will remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that in the next 20 years, close to 2/3 of our power capacity in Europe will have to be reinstalled or renewed. The next 20 years we have to you could say, build a new energy sector of Europe. If we make wrong choices now and make ourselves locked in a situation where we will depend on scarce fossil fuels in the next century, we'll make a historic mistake. And that's why Denmark is very eager not only to build a Danish example, but also a European example, if we can agree with our colleagues in the 27 countries. Thank you.